Hello and welcome to your English news broadcast live on ERi-TV. It's exactly 10:30 p.m. on Eritrea's local time from our headquarters at Asmara with your domestic and international news in brief. I'm Zahra Badouri, but first we'll begin with your major headlines for this broadcast. An announcement from the Ministry of Health. Eritrean Community Festival in Scandinavian countries. Incoming president says Iran will seek an end to tyrannical U.S. sanctions. Turkey declares disaster areas as wildfire death toll rises. Welcome to your domestic in brief. 5 patients have been diagnosed positive for COVID-19 in tests carried out today at quarantine centers in southern, northern Red Sea, and central regions as your primary domestic. Out of these, 2 patients are from the quarantine centers in Sanafis, southern region. 2 patients are from quarantine centers in Mahmimet, northern Red Sea region. The last patient is from a quarantine center in Asmara, central region. On the other hand, 16 patients who have been receiving medical treatment in hospitals in Ansaba 8 and Central 6 and Southern Red Sea 2 regions have recovered fully and have been discharged from these facilities. The total number of recovered patients has accordingly risen to 6,472, while the number of deaths still stands at 35. The total number of confirmed cases in the country to date has risen to 6,565. Ministry of Health, Asmara, 3rd August 2021. Eritrean community in the Scandinavian countries enthusiastically conducted their annual festival on 31st July under the theme Resilient as Ever. The festival, which was conducted virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic, was featured with seminars, discussions, forums, as well as cultural and artistic performances. Speaking at the event, the charge d'affaires at the Eritrean Embassy, Mr. Jonas Manna, said that the annual festival, beyond transferring the noble societal values and national identity, has significantly contributed in strengthening unity and cooperation among nationals. Mr. Alam Takhlagargis, chairman of the National Committee, on his part, said that the colorful festival that the nationals conduct every year attests the strong unity and love of the country and called for its sustainability. In the virtual message, Mr. Yamana Gabraab, head of the political affairs at the PFDJ and presidential advisor, congratulated the nationals for conducting the festival, passing through man-made and natural challenges, gave extensive briefings on the objective situation in the homeland and the region, as well as the diplomatic activities Eritrea is conducting for regional peace and cooperation. At the event, Professor Musiem Zginna presented a discussion paper on strengthening the Eritrean community in the diaspora beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. The festival was attended by regional representatives and national associations, as well as Friends of Eritrea in Sweden. On your final domestic, the residents of Tsarat Administrative Area Ginda subzone are conducting commendable popular soil and water conservation activities, as well as renovation of dirt roads, indicating that 80% of the activities being conducted by the strong participation of the community. Mr. Sulaiman Al-Madai, administrator of the administrative area, said that so far 8 kilometers of dirt road linking Tsarat with Gindar. The residents are also engaged in the construction and renovation of the terraces and water diversion schemes, Mr. Sulaiman added. The residents on their part said that the road was damaged due to the flooding, has been creating difficulty for transportation, and with the completion of the renovation program, their problem will be totally alleviated. In related news, the Environmental Sanitation Program campaign, the residents of the administrative area of Indaba It's Istifanos and Ganzabo, Mash'al and Orona semi-urban centers conducted its significantly contributing in the reduction of communicable diseases. Commanding the strong participation of the residents and stakeholders in the program, Mr. Haile Mangasha, head of the social welfare in the subzone, called for the sustainability of the activity for better outcome. Up next with your international news, do stay with us for more of your reports. Proceeding with your global reports, Iran's hardline incoming President Ibrahim Raisi said on Tuesday he would take steps to lift a trinical sanctions imposed by the United States after winning the formal endorsement of the country's supreme leader to take office later this week. Raisi, who is under personal U.S. sanction over all allegations of human rights abuses in his past as a judge, promised to improve the living conditions of Iranians, which have worsened since 2018 when Washington reimposed sanctions on Iran after abandoning a nuclear deal. Raisi said in a television and televised speech that they will seek to lift the trinical sanction imposed by America, elected in June to replace pragmatist Hassan Rouhani in a vote in which other high-profile candidates were buried from standing. Iran and six powers have been in talks since April to revive the nuclear pact under which Iran agreed to curb its nuclear program to make it harder to obtain fissile materials for a weapon in return of rifle from sanctions. Iran says it has never sought a nuclear weapon and never would. However, Iranian and Western officials have said significant gaps remain to restain the pact. A sixth round of indirect talks between Tehran and Washington in Vienna adjusted on June 20, and the parties have yet to announce when they will resume. Raisi, who will be sworn in on Thursday and will then have 1 week to present his cabinet to Parliament for a vote of confidence, is expected to adopt, in quotation, a hardline approach in the Vienna talks. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has the last word on all matters of state, but the change of president will remove the moderating influence on policy-making exercise by Rouhani since 2013. On your final reports, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says investigation opened into causes of wildfire in southern Turkey has death toll rising to 6. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has declared parts of the southern Turkey ravaged by wildfire as disaster areas, with the death toll from the fires rising to 6 after 2 forest workers were killed. Fire forces and fire across Turkey since Wednesday have burned down forests encroaching on villages and tourist destinations and forcing people to evacuate. Minister of Agriculture and Forestry Baker Bakdemirli said on Saturday that 88 of 98 fires that broke out amid strong winds and scorching heat have been brought under control. At least 5 people have died in Manavgat and 1 died in Marmaris. Both towns are located on the Mediterranean and are tourist destinations. Health Minister Faratin Kosia said 400 people affected by the fire in Manavgat were discharged from hospitals and 10 were still receiving treatment. In Marmaris, 159 people were treated and 1 person was still undergoing treatment from severe burns. New fires erupted in southern Hatay province, where flames jumped into populated areas but appeared to have been brought under control as well. Turkish media said hotel guests in parts of the Aegean town of Bodrum were told to evacuate, and authorities called on private boats and yachts to assist in evacuation efforts by sea. President Erdogan was visiting affected areas on Saturday by helicopter and declared the region affected by the forest fires in quotation disaster areas in a statement he stated on Twitter. Speaking from the town of Manavgat in south of Turkey, Erdogan said at a press conference later on Saturday that while Ankara was not looking to politicize the incident, it was also considering the possibility of sabotage, and an investigation was underway to determine the cause of the fire. Erdogan said the government would provide compensation for families who lost their homes or agricultural lands as well. He said taxes, social security, and credit payments would be postponed for those affected, and small businesses would be offered credit with zero interests. Dear viewers, that is all for now with your domestic and international news. But before we end our broadcast, these are your major headlines in review. An announcement from the Ministry of Health as your primary domestic. Eritrean Community Festival in Scandinavian countries and soil and water conservation activities as well. Incoming president says Iran will seek to end the tyrannical U.S. sanctions. Turkey declares disaster areas as wildfire death toll rises. Until we are back with some more news, enjoy the rest of our programs, but until then, have a nice one.